Today we're going to be building a 5.5 by 10 single axle utility trailer with a fold down ramp and 3,500 pound axle. This is similar to what you can buy at a farm and home or building supply store. However, this isn't just a standard trailer. My son Kenton was going to build this trailer. He was 17 years old, a senior in high school, and preparing to attend college. Unfortunately, he passed away unexpectedly. For his last year in 4-H, this was supposed to be his project for ag mechanics. Kenton was an avid outdoorsman. He loved hunting, fishing, riding ATVs, boating on the lake. If it was outdoors, he loved it. He also loved to work with his hands, create projects, build, and weld. For the past couple of years, he worked as an engineering intern at a local business and was accepted into the mechanical engineering program at Kansas State University, where he planned to attend this fall. This was supposed to be Kenton's trailer. Although he's in a far better place than us, he can't build it, so I'm going to do it for him. Now, if you're looking for a low-cost trailer, this is not going to be for you. For the same cost I have in supplies in building this trailer, I could have gone to the farm and home store and purchased a complete trailer. And it would probably work fine, but if you want a heavier built trailer, one that you want to build yourself and can take pride in, and that's going to last longer, then this is for you. I started off designing this trailer from scratch on Creo Parametric. After watching a couple videos online, specifically Building a Better Utility Trailer, Don't Buy Junk, Build Your Own by Tim Weld, I decided to use steel tubing like he did. If you haven't already, you should definitely check out that video. It's fantastic. The main frame on this trailer is 2x3 11 gauge rectangle tubing, and the cross members are 1.5 inch square 11 gauge tubing. The frame itself is 5.5 foot wide by 10 foot 3 inches long. I went a little bit longer than 10 foot as I talked to some folks that have a 10 foot utility trailer, and one of their biggest gripes is that you can't fit 2x4 or 2x6x10 lumber with the ramp in the vertical position. It's just a little bit too long. With this design, I was able to run wiring for lights inside the trailer frame to keep it out of the elements and protected. And since I was designing it in Creo, I was able to design the parts to fit specific lights and also design access points for wiring to make it easier. I decided I did not want to cut any corners, and since a local shop has a flat laser and a tube laser, I thought I would make it easier on myself. Using a tube laser opened up a lot of possibilities with the design that we will get into later. Just like Tim Weld's, I went through Southwest Wheel and Tire for my axle and some of the components. Now, I did not purchase a full utility trailer build kit, but I did purchase the axle, fenders, hitch, safety chains, and leaf springs from them. The rest of the purchased components, such as lights, wiring, and tires, I purchased locally. After the trailer was completely designed, I sent the files over to the local shop, and the lasers had the parts cut in no time. Now, this of course costs more money than it would if I were cutting this all myself with my saws. However, when you figure in the amount of time it saves and the design capabilities it opens up, it was totally worth it. After the lasers were done, I was left with a pile of pre-cut steel that I had to assemble just like a puzzle. I start out by laying out the main deck frame rails on the floor. Now, one thing about the tube laser is that it just leaves a perfectly cut surface. The corner welds, you can see, it just leaves a perfect spot to burn the weld in. However, on the top side, the butt joints are tight, so here I'm just grinding off a little bit of that edge to give some space for the weld to burn in. Next, I'm going to go ahead and get a tack in each one of the corners. And then after that, we go ahead and run a tape measure from corner to corner and make sure everything's good and square. After we know it's good and square, we add a second tack to each one of the corners so it can't move. And then I just want to take and get a couple more measurements and make sure everything's in line. Next, we're just taking a scribe and marking out where each one of the cross members goes. So on these cross members on each end, I've got a little hole there, just a weep hole in case any water gets into the tubing. It would allow it to drain and not sit there and rot it out or freeze and swell up. I got all the cross members tacked in. The next thing I'm going to do is flip this thing over. I'm going to work on the tongue and the leaf spring bracket. So the tongue, kind of the center of the ball to the front of the deck is 48.5 inches. As far as the leaf spring brackets go, you can see these right here. We've got 57.75 to the center line of the first one, and then 12.5 inches to the center line of the axle, then another 12.5 to the center line of the back channel. Okay, I'm getting these tongue rails put into place here. I came back from the front of the deck, 23.75, put a scribed line right here, so I know that's how far back the tongue rails are supposed to go. It's going to be very important to get these dead square and centered. I have some measuring to do to make sure that we are square, but I bet we're going to be pretty close. One of the things, like I said before, I love about laser tubing parts is they're just cut perfect. And you can see how well that came together there. All right, I got the tongue tacked up here. The hitch, I'm gonna have to make a little modification right down here. I'm gonna have to cut a little bit of this plate out so it can slide on all the way, but that shouldn't be too bad. This is a Dexter axle, 3,500 pound, 77 inch hub to hub face to hub face. My deck, like I said earlier, is 66 inches outside to outside. So this axle, you do have to weld these brackets on here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. We'll sand off this paint, and these should be 64 inches center to center. Okay, there's two different kinds of brackets here. Need to make sure the wider brackets, which is these two, go towards the front of the trailer, because the leaf spring will actually fit inside of here. Whereas on these back here, the leaf spring will kind of butt up to it. Actually, it's going to hang under it, and then there's going to be two brackets that go on the outside of this. So wider ones go to the front. Okay, I got everything welded up on the bottom side here. Next, I am going to put the tongue on, or not the tongue, but the hitch, but I put a little cap here on the end. I'm going to weld that up, sand down the edges, and then go ahead and put the hitch on. Hitch is welded on. Alright, I got the trailer up on edge here, and I decided right up here where this cross member is up tight against the main cross member, I decided to weld that solid all the way down. Not because it needs it for strength, but just because I don't want water seeping down in here, getting in the middle, and rusting that out. So I'm gonna weld it the whole way down. However, I'm gonna skip weld it and kind of move around to spread the heat out. I'm gonna do that there and also here at the back. Got that seam all welded up on the front and the back. Got it laid down here on some sawhorses. I think I'm going to go ahead and finish welding up these corners and get this cross piece put in. Alright, I got the side rails marked out here. So I just kind of evenly spaced them out. So from the front, I'm going to have one right here at the front, and then I've got 17 inches back will be another one, another 17 inches, another 17 inches. Then we're going to span 37 inches for the fender to right here, then another 17 to here. Last one will just be right here. But I'm going to I got these welded, and there's not really much of anything protruding past the edge, but I'm just going to take a mop wheel and sand that down right quick to make sure the uprights sit nice and flush up against the tubing. What I've got here, I just have a piece of angle iron clamped to the bottom of the frame, and then I designed these uprights to sit a 1/4 inch up off of the bottom of the frame. So I have a 1/4 inch spacer right here. Okay, I got 4 of the uprights on in each one of the corners, and then I've got the top rails tacked into place. It took a little bit of time to get each one of these uprights squared and level, but we got there. So everything fits real good there. It's nice and square. Back here, I've got a little bit of an overhang, and this is where I'm going to pin the ramp. When it goes up into the upright position, it should pin right through here. If it all works out right, we'll see how well that works. It's going to be probably kind of hard to get everything in just the exact right position, but we're going to give it a shot. Okay, got all the uprights on besides 2 on the front. I was shorted 2 uprights, so I'm going to have to get find some 1.5-inch tubing and just cut a couple more. Next thing I'm going to do is I've got these light brackets. The tail light will go in that oval there, and I've got this cut out in the tubing, so the wiring for the lights is going to be run inside the tubing. So I've got some cutouts to be able to pull the wiring out. So this bracket goes right here, and then I've got a cap that's going to go on the top side there. But that's how those go. I'm going to get those tacked on there right quick. Alright, I also got these fenders from Southwest Wheel. It's a two-piece design that comes with both the back plate and the fender, so I'm going to have to get this back plate welded in. Okay, I've got a fender clamped on here. What I did was measure 70¼ inches from the front of the main deck of the trailer, and I put a mark right here, and then I also put a mark on the center line of the fender and just lined those up. So theoretically that fender should be exactly center of where the axle is going to be. Okay guys, I've got one of the leaf springs just kind of loosely installed here. One of the things you want to make sure of is that, I don't know if you can kind of see, but these shackles are kind of sitting at a little bit of an angle back. And that's how you want it, to just make sure that this leaf spring can never come forward and kind of over center. You always want it to be on the back side of the vertical center line. Okay, got the axle in place here. So far everything's lining up real well. This is the bracket that's welded onto the axle. These were at 64-inch centers, which is the same as the center to center of the outside rails on the main deck. And then just have 2 U-bolts here, and then this plate on the bottom side just sucks everything up tight. Gonna go ahead and get the other side fastened. And this is just a loose fasten. I'm not putting the lock washers on just yet or anything. I'm just dry fitting everything to make sure it's all going to center up right. Got the wheels mounted up here, and I think it's looking pretty good. Everything's nice and centered. Got a good amount of space here. Good, probably 4 inches that this tire can go up before it hits the fender. And let's see what we got under here. We've got about 3 inches down here, maybe even a little bit less because of the U-bolt. So this tire will not hit the fender ever. One thing I didn't mention is these wheels and tires that I got. They are a ST205-75R15. It's a 15-inch wheel. Radials, let's see, Rambler by Taskmaster. 8-ply rating, 2150 capacity, 81 mile-an-hour rating. Probably about halfway done with welding up all this railing and the fenders and stuff. And I'm going to take a break here and try to let stuff cool off and not crank too much heat into it. I'm trying to keep my welds fairly small to keep the heat down. While I let it cool off, I'm going to go ahead and get these D-rings tacked on. I think I've got everything welded up here. D-rings are put on. Fenders are welded up. Side rails welded up. For the jack up front, I'm going to have a couple different options. You can put a jack right here on the tongue, but I always liked a jack that can swivel. So I'm putting on a stub here for a different jack. Now I will not be able to swivel at 90 degrees in this location, but you can just pull the pin and yank the jack off and put it somewhere else. I might actually put another one of these jack stubs maybe on the outside of the tongue over here or something. Have this area right here in the tongue is going to have expanded metal on the bottom, kind of a basket to set stuff in. And to do that, I need to cut a piece of angle iron that will span across the bottom of the tongue here. Okay, so I have not got this piece cut yet for the tongue. I decided to work on, I've got these fender supports here. It's just a chunk of angle iron, and it'll get welded on right in here, and then just a couple spots on the fender just to, I don't know, help strengthen it. If something ever flies up and hits the fender, this should help keep it from bending up quite so bad. However, the fender was bowed out pretty bad on the outside edges, so I kind of have this ratchet strap contraption here to pull those ends back in to square it up a little bit. Before I put expanded metal in, I'm going to go ahead and take the wire wheel on the grinder and just try to clean up all these welds and get stuff ready for paint. I've gone over the whole trailer with the wire wheel, got all the welds cleaned up, got it all shined up. Next thing I'm going to do is take this just hand file here, any of the hard to reach places that you can't get with the wire wheel. Just knock it down with this. It's pretty easy to do, and it just makes for a better finished product, getting all that spatter out of there. Some of that detail work is what you have control of when you build it yourself. You're not always going to get that when you buy a trailer. Kind of like this, rounding over the corners. That's something I always like to do. It just gives it a nice, clean, professional look, and you don't see that very often on stuff you purchase. We've got some flat laser parts that came in here, just some like end caps. This one's going to go here. This one here, there will be a clearance light that goes in that hole. That'll go there. Got one that plugs this off here. Alright, I got the two front uprights put on there. Now I've got something I'm going to personalize the trailer with here. I had a couple of signs made with my son's name. Cross and antlers. He absolutely loved the outdoors, loved to go hunting. So I'm going to put these on the front of the trailer, one on each side. I'm going to go ahead and get those welded in. Okay, we've got the nameplates put on the side here. They're welded on. Now I'm going to go to the front here, and I got just a few things left. I've got to put on the safety chains. So it came with these brackets here. They'll go under the tongue, and I'll put the chain in it obviously, and then weld those on under there. Okay, I'm working on the spare tire mount here. I've just got two little supports coming off the side rail, and then I've got this plate here that's going to go on about like that, and then there's going to be one more angled support right down in there.
Just look away. Dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, a couple other things I did here. I got another jack stub and welded it on here. I think the junction box for the wiring is going to go about right here. And I just wasn't exactly sure what I'm going to want to do with the jack. Obviously this spot will work fine, but whenever the trailer is hooked to a tow vehicle, this jack will have to move, so I could put it on horizontal right here, or maybe I'll just use this jack stub all the time here anyway, but have a couple of options though. So the other thing I did here was put a license plate bracket on down here. So I think I have everything welded on the main trailer besides these tubes right here, which is going to hold the ramp in the upright position. I'm going to wait to weld these in until I actually set the ramp into place. All the caps that I welded on, I'm going to go ahead and just take a sander and sand these smooth so it almost just looks like it's part of the outside tubing. Okay, I think I have all these edges sanded down. So we're getting ready to build the ramp here. Pretty self-explanatory, just a rectangle with a few supports in the middle. And then we've got our bushings here that's gonna lock into the main trailer to keep the ramp upright. And then a few pieces of tubing for the hinges. Okay, got this ramp frame welded up. Next thing I'm going to do is bring it over here. Got the trailer put down on the ground, and I'm going to get the bushings cut for that over there, and then I'm going to pin it right here to kind of hang the ramp where it needs to go. Okay, set it down. Okay, I'm working on the hinges here for the ramp. The ramp is pinned on both sides here, and then I've got this piece of angle iron down here holding it square. It's level both ways right now. So now I'm working on these hinges down here. So these hinge tubes, well, for one, the square and rectangle tubing is rounded. But I also want the ramp to fold not only down to the ground, I also want it to be able to fold all the way down onto the trailer in case I'm driving down the road, and this thing will catch wind even with expanded metal. It'll still catch wind, so if I'm not hauling anything, if I'm going to pick something up, I can just lay this down. If I'm hauling something longer that sticks out the back end or would stick out the back end, this ramp would prevent it from being able to happen. So I want to be able to fold this thing all the way down so you can lay stuff over the top of it. In order to do that, this hinge pin is very crucial, the placement of it. And there's going to be a gap. I don't know if you can see it. There's going to be a gap along the top side on both sides of it. I've got, for now, just this piece of angle iron clamped in right here that's holding it up kind of where I want it. Pretty much split the gap so they're even. This piece of tubing on the left gets welded to the ramp. The piece of tubing on the right gets welded to the trailer. And I'm going to do 3 different sets of that. If I ever need to remove the ramp, I've got the pins here have a 90-degree bend on them, so you can pull them out and the whole ramp will pop off of there. The last thing I need to do before I test this ramp out is tack in my lock pin tubes. Now, this pin is going to have to change. Simulate a 2x being in there. And then this pin is gonna have to change. It's either in the way if you want to fold it down, or it's in the way if you want to fold it onto the trailer. So that one in the middle is just gonna have to be a straight pin and no 90 on it like the other two. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all these welded up. This actually seems like it's gonna work pretty well. It seems good and sturdy. Now, one thing to remember on these welds, on these pins, is you don't want a crazy amount of heat. You don't want to risk getting it so hot that you almost burn through, because you can deform the metal and then it's not going to pivot very good on that pin. It'll actually gouge the pin. Obviously, you want penetration, you want it to hold, but you don't need a crazy amount of heat. Okay, I think the next thing, and close, the only thing left is cutting the expanded metal and putting it on the ramp here, so we're going to do that. Okay guys, I think I'm completely done with all the metal work on this trailer. I knew these were going to be snug when I designed this, because it's like it's DOM tubing made for 1/2-inch pin. These are 1/2-inch pins, and you know, everything when you weld it, it shifts, it flexes, it moves around. Obviously I welded these in with the pins in, but it still pushes and pulls. Oh yeah. I like it. I'm going to do the other side. Oh yeah, that's nice. I think this trailer is ready for paint. Alright guys, it's been a few weeks, but we finally got this trailer back from being powder coated. We're going to go ahead and get it unloaded. Okay, so I have the axle mounted in here, and I still need to take the hubs back off and put the seals in, pack the bearings, and get that finished up. But for now, I just want to get the trailer set on the ground, so I'm going to do that later. But all these should be, I got all these shackle pins in, I got these U-bolts tight with the lock washers. Guys, so we're ready to start wiring up the lights here. This trailer is only going to have 4 different wires. The brown is for the running lights, white is for the ground, yellow is for the left turn, and green is for the right turn, like the blinkers. If I would have put brakes on this trailer, then there would be a blue wire for the brakes, but I just decided to not put brakes on this trailer. So we're only using 4 wires. This is a 7-way junction box with a 7-way plug on it. I wouldn't have to have this, it's like an RV plug. I wouldn't have to have that, but it's just so common now that all vehicles will have that plug. So I'm just going to use this and then only use 4 of the wires in it. So these wires will get connected into this box. This is already pre-wired to this plug here. And then these wires will run from that box, maybe on the side here, into this hole right here, which gets it inside of the frame. And then it will run all the way down inside the frame. There's going to be a clearance light right here, clearance light right here, red. So the first 2 are orange. This is the red clearance light for the tail, and then the actual tail lights. It's like a stop, turn, and tail light all in one right there. And then we have a license plate light here, and then we'll have kind of the same thing over here. So the wire is actually going to run through the frame all the way down around back here, and then all the way back up the other side. The last light will be the clearance light up on the side of the front there. What I'm going to do is start on this side. And I have an access hole in the frame right back here. So I'm going to get all the wires pulled back to this point back here first. I have a fish tape I'm going to use to do that. I'm going to fish this fish tape into there, get it up to the front there. Okay, you can see the end of the fish tape here. So now I've got to get it somehow around the corner and then into this hole right here. There we go. Okay. So we got the fish tape out here, so now I can take these wires, tie on to that so I can pull these back through there. Okay, we got these 4 wires pulled through to the back here. So now I'm going to take these wires off the fish tape, and then I'm going to run over here to this side with the fish tape, and I'm going to try to fish that thing down through here and back across here and out right here and grab back onto these wires. Now the yellow wire, that's as far as it needs to go, because it's a left turn. So it'll go right here. It doesn't need to go any further. So the only 3 I'm going to pull to that side is the brown, the white, and the green. Okay, I'm going to change course a little bit on what I'm doing. I was having a hard time getting the fish tape through here and then making this 90 and then coming back over and making this 90 back out. I think I could have got it eventually. One thing I could have done, and I probably should have done, is put some, like a 3/4 inch hole here or something to access this corner, and then I could just take pliers and get the fish tape turned the right direction. But I didn't really want to drill into that if I didn't have to. If I was doing it all over again, I would have just had that lasered in there. I found kind of a workaround here. So rather than the wiring coming down this side and then all the way around the back and then all the way back up the front, I'll still have the wiring coming back to this point for this left side of the trailer. I will just, for the right side of the trailer, the wiring will just run through horizontally through this front tube, and then it will run down this side of the trailer. Because I was able to get the fish tape in here over to the other side and and back down this same hole that I used to put the first set of wiring in. So I'll just tie on to, for the right side of the trailer, the wiring needed here, pull it through that way, and then pull it back down through there. What that will do is I will just have an extra set of the brown and the white. I'm going to have to cut those wires roughly halfway, and I'll just have 2 sets of those running up to this box, but that won't be a big deal. I've got the brown, the white, and the green pulled through to this side. Now I'm going to unhook the fish tape, and then I will push the fish tape in from the back side up to here, and then go ahead and pull this all the way back. The right group of wires coming, you can see them right here, and they run all the way back here, coming out back. So these lights, you push them in, and they're supposed to take a 3/4 inch hole, and I know with past experience, they're really hard to get into a 3/4 inch hole, especially after you add powder coat to it. So I did make it a little bit bigger. It still went in pretty snug, but not too bad. The brown wire will hook up to the black, white to white, that's the ground. And then we will also tie in for the tail light, white to white. Black will go to the brown again, and then the red actually goes to the green wire here. And what I'm going to do, I know they make quick connectors, but in the past I've had really good luck with soldering, and I haven't really had any soldered connections fail over time. I know it can maybe weaken them a little bit, but I've had good luck doing that. So I might have to get a little creative here where I've got multiple wires coming into one joint, such as this. What I might do is just 3 grounds coming in together, and I'll have the same thing with the brown wire. I might just kind of solder it and then put a wire nut over the solder and then tape it. It's probably not how you're exactly supposed to do it, but it's worked for me in the past, so that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so I have all my grounds together right there. I have a little butane torch. It's actually a little too big for what we're doing here. It's nice to have a little smaller torch. It has a little finer flame on it, but this gets the job done. So the last connection we have here is the green to the red. This one's a little more, it's more of a normal connection. I'm going to try to use a little bit of a heat shrink tubing on this one. Slide it over here first. It's going to make it a little more difficult soldering from this thin wire to the 16 gauge. But we'll just kind of spread all the strands out and kind of push them together, then twist them. The heat shrink tubing over that like such. Should make a pretty good connection. So I should be done with this area back here. I do, like I said, want to leave a little bit of leftover wiring back here, but I don't need all this, so I'm going to pull a little back through. I think that's probably about good enough. I don't know if I can kind of maybe zip tie a little loop in this. That should just kind of give me a little extra to have in there. All right, so that side is complete. So I'm just going to go over here and do the same thing. This one's going to be even a little more tricky because I have the license plate light too. So I'm actually going to have four wires to do for the ground and the running light. So the white and the brown, 4 wires coming together into one. All right, next I'm going to wire up this orange clearance light here in front of the fender. Okay, to do that, we're going to have to fish out the brown and the white wires out of this little hole here. That could be a little tricky, but I think we'll get them out of there. And then this light, the wires are right here. So they're not quite long enough, so I'm either going to have to put a jumper wire in or just pull those 2 wires out and kind of have them loop or something like that. We'll get them out here and see what it looks like. There's my 2 right there that I want. Okay, so I have these wires here from the clearance light. What I think I'm going to do is just, I got a jumper wire about, I don't know, 18 inches long. Probably have to cut it down some, but I think I'm just going to do a butt connection here. Solder that together, and then the other end, I'm just gonna skin off a portion of this and then solder that right into the loop, and just kind of have a jumper right there rather than having the loop go all the way back. Put the heat shrink tubing on. Okay. Oh, this is the part I don't like. Need to skin a part of the wire off here. Okay. So we have the jumper wire coming here and just kind of tied into the main line. We'll take and solder that, and then that I'm just gonna have to cover it up with electrical tape the best I can. Okay, I've got this one done. Got the wires all shoved into the frame there, so I will end up putting this in like a wire loom, attaching it right up here, and then pushing the wire loom kind of up in here too to protect everything. Now the only two I have left are clear up here at the front of the trailer. They're going to go right here. So basically what I have going here is I wanted a bigger opening to be able to get access to the wiring and just help get it pulled and such. What I did was made these covers here that go right there, and they'll just bolt right on there. So the light itself will go into this, will go into the hole right there. And then I'm threading, I've already threaded this hole, but I'm gonna thread these other ones. And so I can just bolt it right on there and take it back off if I need to get access to it. So this is gonna be similar to the other clearance lights, in that I'm just gonna skin out a spot here on this loop of wiring and then just solder this right into it. Definitely don't want to go too crazy on tightening these things down and strip out the threads I just made. You want them good and snug. These are flange, serrated flange bolts, so they got kind of some locking mechanism in them, so they shouldn't come off. Okay, I have the junction box mounted right here on the side of the trailer. Picked up some wire looming from the auto parts store. We'll put all this wiring in that looming. Got some cable clamps to kind of hold that stuff in place. I'm gonna tuck that wiring up underneath here. 16 gauge by 1/4 inch hole ring terminals. This box is actually wired for an RV standard. As far as I know, there's two different standards. There's the RV, and then there's just kind of like a universal trailer standard. So I wired this trailer as the universal. This is wired for the RV standard, so the colors are not going to match up. At least some of the colors are not going to match up in this box. We just got some self-tapping screws here, self drillers. So I'm ready to wire all this into the junction box here. Really I'm dealing with 6 wires, but only 4 different colors, just because of the way I ran everything here. White is going to go to white, that's ground. And then where it gets kind of confusing is the red and the junction box is going to get wired to my yellow wire, which is left turn and brake lights. The green wire here is going to get wired to my brown wires here, which are the running lights. And then the brown wire here is going to get wired to the green wire here, which is the right turn. And so I could have just wired the whole thing as RV standard the whole way back, but I don't know why, I just usually do things with the universal trailer standard. I don't know why they ever had to switch it up to begin with, but here we are. So we're going to start with white to white. Just going to cut off all the excess here. Plenty long enough. Now, a lot of trailers, they don't actually run a white ground wire all the way back to every light, because you can, like those clearance lights and, well, really all the lights, you can just ground right to the frame, like from the light. You could just run a zip, like a self driller up to the frame. I like running a ground wire to all of them. It just seems like it's more reliable that way. You don't lose your ground as often. But what I will probably do is run a short jumper ground wire from this ground post back to this, just a screw out here, just to help keep a ground. We should have a ground through this connection here, straight up through the connector to the truck, and using the truck's ground. But it started here with these ground wires, run them up into here, and leave a little bit extra. Plenty extra there. Okay. And then the green incoming goes to the browns, and then the brown incoming goes to the green outgoing. Okay. These are all wired up except for the ground wire that I want to run. So I just need a little chunk of white. We'll go from here down to there. See if we can mash a third one in there. I believe we're all wired up. Put the cover on. Basically what we're going to do is run that ground wire right to this screw right here. We'll put a ring terminal on it and connect it right in there. Alright guys, so we have it connected to my Suburban here just to test the lights, and so far looks good. That one is on. License plate lock. That's good. Okay, those all look good. Now let's test out the left blinker. Actually, we'll do the brake, see if I can see the brake lights. Yeah, I can see them back there. Left blinker. And right blinker. Right blinker looks good. So yeah, that's all the lights are done. They're working good. Okay guys, so I'm ready to assemble these hubs. And first thing I need to do is pack these bearings with grease. Different sizes of bearings. You got the small outer bearing, larger inner bearing, and then the seal. So I'm going to start with the larger part of the hub. This will be the inner bearing that goes towards the inside of the trailer. So I'm going to do those first. So I've got this bearing packer tool. This is not a clean job, but necessary. Okay, that kind of cinches the bearing down in the middle. Then I'm going to pump grease in through the top, and it's just going to push it through that bearing. You can see there's grease pushing out through all the rollers. So we're just gonna grab this. Now some of this extra grease, I'll just take and put it on the outside. You really don't need very much grease on these bearings. They only need a little layer. That's all we need. Put the other large bearing in. Okay. Okay, now we'll put the seal in, and they just go in right like this. Just need a rubber mallet or something to tap them in. Okay, you just want that seal to be flush with the outside, so that's what that should look like. And that bearing is not going to come out of there until that seal is pulled out in the future. So that one is ready for the inner bearing. Those bearings are packed and the hubs are ready to go on once and for all. This washer goes on next, which kind of pushes up against the bearing. After that, we've got the spindle nut. Okay, so I have the spindle nut just kind of loosely tightened just by hand. I'm going to wait to fully tighten that until I get the actual wheel and tire on there, and we'll spin it and make sure it's not rocking. And then this retainer slips over here, and then you'll actually put a cotter pin through. There's a hole on the spindle. You'll put a cotter pin through that, which will lock that nut into place. So what you're looking for is any wobble. I can feel just a tiny bit. Obviously you want it to roll smooth, but I think, and these bearings will kind of loosen up a little bit too, so we're gonna snug these up just a pinch. You don't want it real snug where it causes drag, but now there's zero wobble, turning nice and free. That's about where you want it. Cotter pin hole is right here. So we'll just have to make sure that one of these slots lines up with that, and it looks like I need to snug it up just a pinch. Actually, it might. I think it's gonna go. And then just bend your cotter pin over. That's gonna keep the spindle nut from turning. All we have left is the cap, dust cap. Okay, that side's done. No wobble, turns good. Go on the next side. Okay, onto the floor here. I've got my boards here set down in the trailer, as you can see. I have 6 2x8s 3 on each of the outsides, and then 3 2x6s in the middle, and it's going to work out perfect. I won't have to cut anything or rip any boards to width. Should leave me with roughly a 1/4 inch of gap in between everything. I've got this board here sitting right where I want it. I'm going to start with the outsides and get a nice 3/16 to 1/4 gap in between the outside rail and the first board on each side. Most of these boards are nice and straight. There's a couple that are, this one in particular, that one's got a good twist to it. I'll have to do a little prying on that one for sure. This is what I've got to attach them. Saber drive, self-drilling screws, 1/4 by 2.5. I am probably going to use like an 1/8 inch bit just to pre-drill them. All right, now we're going to move over and do the board on the opposite side. Get the 2 outside ones done first. Okay. See, I just pried that. I did screwed one in on each end, and then it was bowed out a little bit, so I put a pry bar in and just pushed it straight. Okay, this thing's just about done. I got the floor finished up. I ended up putting 2 screws on each end, 2 in the middle on each board, and then kind of 1 in the center, roughly halfway in between. I think that'll work well. So the floor is done, and I think the only thing left is the ramp. Just some anti-seize lubricant, just to hopefully prevent it from rusting over the years. Try to do this without making too much of a mess. I think this baby's complete.